Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Michael, or Kiratze Online. Hopefully you guys are having a great day or night, as usual. And I am back with another episode of Decking Around. This is episode number 4, I believe. And I haven't been a while since I made one of these, so pretty pumped to get out another one. And if you're new to the channel or new to sort of what I do with Decking Around, it's a series I started for my channel where I hopefully can inspire people to just build fun decks and just learn deck building in general. If you haven't been a deck builder before, hope maybe these videos will inspire you to just go out and try building a list yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with net decking. I have no problems with net decking. I just think that deck building is a skill everyone should learn. Even if you do prefer net decking, I think that knowing what goes into a good deck just helps you in terms of, you know, when you're trying to tech or maybe adjust it to fit your playstyle a little more. Just the fundamentals of deck building, I think, are very, very important to learn in any card game. So Decking Around is a series I started to hopefully, you know, help people with that and inspire people to maybe go out of their comfort zone a little bit and build some fun decks. Because a lot of the time I find the best decks that I climb the ladder with are just weird fun deck ideas that I just enjoy playing. Not a deck that I worry about, okay, does it have the exact number of 2-drops that I need, does it maximize efficiency in this factor? None of that. If I find a fun synergy or something like that, then I will play that, and that's where I will actually climb the best, is just decks I enjoy playing. So hopefully this will get, hopefully through these videos as well, it gives you guys some fun ideas to try out for yourself. Now granted, I am pretty much exclusively an Abyssian player, just a disclaimer there, but I have no problem in playing other factions. If you guys want to suggest deck ideas or card synergies or a card you want me to build around that's in another faction, feel free to suggest it. As long as I have the card and, you know, or have the spirit to craft it, I will do a Decking Around episode for it. I like to create fun content for you guys. I'm not a super strong player. I don't have the hours, and I also choose not to play Duelyst, you know, for hours and hours and hours on end, like, you know, some of the top players do, because my goal isn't to be the super competitive person. My goal is to be the fun person you can just talk to about Duelyst in a you know, a deck building way, just playing with stupid cards and just having a good time. That's why I enjoy the Duelyst community, is because it's a fairly tight-knit community and everyone loves to support each other. I love the Duelyst community, and I hope to create much more content in the future. So even though I may not get to play as much as other people, or choose not to play as much as other people, I definitely want to create a lot of content for you guys, because it is a lot of fun to make these videos for you. But anyways, enough of that introduction. Let's start. Let's do what we came here to do, and that is to build a deck. So this is I wanted to build a Sarlac deck. Now, granted, that's sort of an old idea. But no one really plays Sarlac anymore, just because of the meta, and I completely understand that. Knowing why certain things aren't played is another good skill to have, even as a deck builder who loves playing really bad cards sometimes, or stupid cards. Knowing why those cards are bad, from an objective standpoint, and knowing what works in a certain meta is a good skill to have, because it helps you put in cards that may take your opponent off guard, and things like that. So I want to build a Sarlac deck because I don't really have a Sarlac deck anymore, and also no one really plays it anymore. Same with Vorpal Reaver, just because decks like Vanar and Vitruvian, they're the two factions with two of the the most efficient dispels in the game. Vitruvian having a 0-mana dispel, and Vanar having a very effective removal and dispel in one card. Not to mention Hailstone Prism in conjunction with Chromatic Cold. You know, they have way more dispels than Vitruvian. So that I sort of want to build a deck that can stand up to those decks, and not really have Sarlac or anything like that be 100% focus, because that's where decks go wrong, is when they just tunnel vision on a goal, but it's just not effective in the right meta. But I think Sarlac still is an extremely powerful card, and same with Vorpal Reaver. I think I love those two cards, and they're a lot of fun, and they can really help you win games. The goal is to just really build a deck that can maximize their efficiency while not relying on them 100%. So with those two things in mind, we have to worry about the dispels first and foremost. So we should have other ways we can use, we should have other things we can hit with a sacrifice effect. not relying not relying on Sarlac as being our only form of sacrificing. And we should also have enough dispel targets that we can out threat our opponent compared to how many dispels they'll have. To ensure that something like a Vorpal Reaver can survive. Additionally, because we're going to be sacrificing a lot of things, I don't want to make a pure big Abyssian style list because I think that style is really weak against Vanar. But I do want to make sort of a more mid-rangey control style list, I guess, if that makes any sense. Because using Darkfire Sacrifice is just a way to gain a lot of tempo is just it's a good card for that. Being able to play cards like Emerald Rejuvenator for 2 is huge. You don't have to ramp into big threats like Archon Spellbinder and Spectral Revenant. Like, those are good if it makes sense. But being able to just have big swings in tempo, being able to play Dancing Blades for 3, Keeper for 3, those are plays that can get you a lot of board and get you a lot of tempo. And I think that's going to be what we're going to be focusing on, is just having a good set of mid-range threats to help us carry. Because you don't need a lot in Abyssian to win, especially if you are having cards like Shadow Reflection or Grimoire or Deathfire Crescendo. You have a lot of burst, so just setting up for that burst is what we're going to be trying to go for, probably. So first and foremost, we got to pick the core cards. That's what I always like to do, is figure out which cards I know 100% I'm going to want in a deck like this. And it's always good to sort of come up with an idea or sentence come up with a sentence. Of course you're coming up with an idea. Come up with a sentence or a brief description of the deck and its goal. And it's always good to have a plan B as well in the deck, just because, especially with Sarlac, 100% focusing on Sarlac, you're probably going to lose more games just because it's fairly ineffective. But if we can actually capitalize on what Sarlac does in terms of drawing out dispels and removal right away, we can hopefully capitalize on that and just having a ton of high threat dispel targets and maximizing value out of those. So first and foremost, we're obviously going to have 3 Darkfire Sacrifices. That is a big 100%. Grasp of Agony I'm probably going to have because we're going to be a little bit on the higher end on curve. We're going to have probably a fair amount of 5 and 4 drops, I feel, in a more mid-rangey sacrifice list like this. And Grasp of Agony, not to mention, since Vanar is one of our weaker matchups when playing a deck with Sarlac, and Grasp of Agony is a card that is just like Void Pulse's MVP in Songhai. Grasp of Agony is MVP in Vanar. I've won so many Vanar matches with this card in conjunction with Spectral Blade, and it also helps you catch up, since Spectral Blade sometimes ends up being your turn 1 play, and they'll play sometimes 2 minions on turn 1 if they're going second, for example. Having Grasp of Agony in hand allows you to catch up. Not to mention it can deal face damage. Sometimes goes really well with Spectral Revenant, and it clears the way for stuff like Vorpal Reaver sometimes, but it also just keeps your opponent's board under control. And especially since both Vanar and Vitruvian are 2 of the most popular factions right now, then they both like to flood the board with weak minions. Grasp of Agony really excels in just capitalizing on that. So I think a full set might be what we'll need to run. Horn of the Forsaken is pretty good at just triggering sacrifice effects. It's a cheap way, and you'll actually get an additional mana if you hit someone and then Darkfire Sacrifice the 1/1 Wraithling. You'll get an extra mana in the same turn that you play that sort of combo. And it is a little bit of annoyance to your opponent, since they do have to worry about the other 2 chargers and the other 2 Wraithlings that can possibly come up from that. I don't know if I want to include it. It sort of depends if I want to have just enough 2-drops to make it worthwhile. We'll worry about that later. Void Pulse is another tough one. I know we're going to have a full set of Vorpal Reavers. I know that. Since that is going to be one of my favorite cards, it can end the game very quickly, and it always forces stuff out of your opponent. As long as you're not just going to die the next turn, Vorpal Reaver really is hard to deal with. You have to deal with both halves. You have to have a dispel and a way to deal 6 damage, or they'll just take 6 damage, and hopefully we can't capitalize on the Wraithlings a lot of the time. Sometimes people hope for that. So Vorpal Reaver I really like, and since we are having sort of a sacrifice plan in there, being able to play Sarlac on 3, and then turn 4 sack Sarlac and play Vorpal Reaver on core 4, like that is huge. Sure, we're not really dealing with their board, but it's a big play in general, since it's a very big threat to get out on like the 2nd turn, 3rd turn. Spectre Revenant is going to be an instant add as well. It's pretty much in any Abyssian deck, since it's just extremely good. That is a phone call, but it is... Wow. Okay, my phone's ringing. One sec. I don't recognize that number, and I'm pretty sure it's a telemarketer. So we'll ignore that. Shadow Dancer is good because it's going to give us a little bit of healing, and we are going to have a lot of sacrifice effects, and we are sort of a board control type of deck. So Shadow Dancer can help capitalize on that, and it's another good card to have in the Songhai matchup, being able to ping off artifacts and heal at the same time. I think we're going to have to include a fair amount of healing because it's going to be a little bit of a slower deck, but we're going to be a little more on the controlling side, so I think we're going to include a full set of Ritual Banishings. We are playing Sarlac, so being able to just have a good target for it is awesome. Now, do I want Knights or Assassins is the question. I really like Knights or Assassin as removal in mid-rangey lists because it just doubles as additional face damage when you need it to. Which is important, but I think we're gonna have to I think we're just gonna be relying on more of our mid bodies and late game bodies to just carry us through the game, so we shouldn't need too much. So probably we'll just end up using like Soul Grimoire and Shadow Reflection as finishers. It's tough. I feel so bad not including Knights or Assassin. We'll come back to that. It is also a great card to get back with Keeper, which is another card we're going to have a full set of. Spectral Blade helps, it's one of the best cards in Abyssian, hands down. Very rarely do I not run Spectral Blade in any Abyssian deck. There's a lot of the time, there's just no reason not to run Spectral Blade. It's just an extremely good artifact, and one of the best, it's easily one of the best cards in Abyssian, if not the best card. So, Keeper is going to be a definite. We're going to be sacking a lot of things, and we're going to be all about just trying to force our opponent to use resources to deal with our stuff, and then being able to bring those back. And especially when you are including cards like Darkfire Sacrifice and Ritual Banishing, worst case scenario, if you have to sacrifice like a medium-sized threat, like an Emerald or something like that, an Emerald Rejuvenator, you're able to get those bodies back in the future with Keeper, which is really, really strong. So Keeper is huge in a sacrifice effect, sacrifice deck, especially with big threats like Shadow Dancer and Vorpal Reaver. Other core cards, Jaxi, because it doubles as a sticky body that we can hit with Darkfire Sacrifice or Ritual Banishing in the same turn and still have something left over, which is always nice. Any other core card? Oh, duh. Obviously the Sarlacs. Surprised I didn't include those. I'm actually going to include Duelyst. I am a sort of a fan of this. I played it, I don't know if you saw my Threat Abyssian deck a while ago, but playing Duelyst with Keeper, you can get a lot out of it. And like I said, our goal is to have just a ton of threats that forces our opponent to deal with them and spend resources on them. And Duelyst not only draws out dispels and removal. If your opponent can't deal with it, it's gonna kill something. If they don't take, otherwise they take 5 damage to the face, which is a lot of damage. It's a fifth of your health. So if they don't dispel it, that's awesome. And the 0-10 Tombstone, if we are going to end up including something like Shadow Reflection, you can actually still target it, and it can attack because it's not a structure, it's just a minion. So that's pretty cool. And also it can be sort of almost pseudo healing, since they will have to deal with the 10 health minion, which is pretty cool. It just buys you some time to set up for some bigger plays down the road. And even if it gets to like 1 health, you can just be like, okay, well, I don't have any use for this anymore, and just sack it to do something and get value out of it. So that's pretty good. And it's awesome to get back with Keeper once it actually does die. So yeah, we're going to be just having big turns in the mid game is what this deck's going to be all about. So we only have 8 spots left. I think we're good on the late game. We have to worry about our early game. So I think I like including I like including Azurhorn Shaman in pretty much every single list I have with sacrifice effects. It's just you can get a lot of value out of it, buffing up your mid game minions and stuff like that, and just creating huge sticky threats. Essentially, it is also a potential dispel target if our opponent feels it's dispel worthy. I sort of like Primus Fist as well. It just allows things to trade up. It makes Sarlac's gonna hopefully be there most of the time, so it can make things easier to trade with. Same with Azurhorn Shaman, both of which only have the 1 attack, so giving it an additional attack can definitely help in terms of just trade up potential. So I like that. Now I think we're gonna need more healing than just the 3 Shadow Dancers and the 3 Spectral Blades. I don't think that's gonna be enough healing, and we can't rely on Duelyst having the 0-10 Tombstone to be almost a pseudo heal effect. So Emerald Rejuvenator, is nice to have. I'm thinking I'd rather have just 2 Shadow Dancers and 3 Emeralds. That feels a little bit better. Yeah, so this looks actually pretty good. We have enough early game. We have 9 2-drops in addition to Spectral Blade being an additional turn 1 play. So that's, that's 12 turn 1 plays potentially, which is plenty. I'm wondering about removal though. I don't think I need the 3 Grasp of Agony. We're mainly concerned about just having it for the Vannar matchups, or just being able to mulligan hard for it. I think should be enough. And even then, you're not needing it turn 1. You're not even sometimes not needing it turn 2. They tend to clump up anyway, so even just waiting for turn 3 value is sometimes a possibility with Grasp of Agony. I think I'm fine with actually cutting a Azurhorn Shaman. And I think I want to include... let's see. I think I need an extra way to finish the game. I think I'm going to include Night's Assassin. I think I'm going to put those in. Night's Assassin is just a good card. It's good to get back with Keeper. It's removal, and it just helps in when we're ready to set up lethal, especially when we do have Shadow Dancer. Being able to get 2 triggers off by killing off something with Night's Assassin is big, and conjunction with Grasp of Agony can give the deck a little bit of reach as well. This list is really tight. Maybe that's too much. Like, maybe we don't need 3 Emeralds and 2 Shadow Dancers. Like, if we are putting out a lot of threats, like big threats, they're going to be spending a lot of their board and just resources in general, probably. That's our hope, to just deal with what we have on the board. Maybe I just don't need 3 Vorpals, but yeah, no. It's one of our key cards, and it just being able to keep pumping out threats like Vorpal Weaver is huge. This looks fine. This looks all right. There's still enough burst in the deck. Setting up Shadow Dancer turns, Vorpal Weaver can end the game quickly. Spectral Revenant can help end the game quickly. Spectral Blade's face damage, Night's Assassin's face damage, Grasp of Agony can even help, and even Duelyst, if our opponent just wants to deal with it by hitting face, that is a possibility as well, since getting 5 damage is going to be enough. And like with these mid-game bodies, just even if those end up beating down on your opponent, like that can still end the game fairly quickly and can set up good turns. So I think this should be enough, actually. So yeah, it's sort of a mid-range sacrifice list. I like it. It actually looks all right. The curve fits, and I feel confident that we'll have enough things to do turn 1. Only 8 of those are going to be an actual body, but a deck like this is perfectly fine if we need to have Spectral Blade as a turn 1 play, and it's all about just playing accordingly and doing your opening plays accordingly. So yeah, no, I think this is fine, and all these bodies were perfectly fine with getting back with Keeper. It sometimes sucks getting Sarlac back because it's such a slow play, but having 2 Sarlacs on the board just gets much better once you start getting Shadow Dancer triggers off and stuff like that, and just ensures you have more things to hit with Ritual Banishing. Yeah, and I like that we added in the Night's Assassin. I was going to include like Shadow Reflection as a finisher or Grimoire, and I may want to fit Grimoire in the future, but we just need the extra removal, and Night's Assassin is still extra damage that we can use to to help finish off the game. So that is that, because a deck like this, like once you start getting your big threats on board, it doesn't need that much to actually start taking over the game. So the list looks pretty fun. I like it. It's like a mid-range control. I don't know. I don't even know. But anyways, time to name the deck. Sarlac Sack. Sarlac Sack is the name of the game. We can just call it mid-range Sack. Yeah, Sarlac Sack. Sarlac is like one of the key components in the deck, so we'll name it after him. But yeah, so that is the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as usual. Check out the links in the description below, and be on the lookout for my next video, which will be the 2 games that we will play with this deck. So yeah, until then, you guys, take care. Hopefully you guys have a great night, day, morning, wherever you are, and I will talk to you guys soon.